The McLaren 720 sat lifeless in the bay, a $1 million paperweight waiting for someone with actual eyes. Adrian crossed his clean arms, handing down a slow, bloated diagnosis like it was absolute gospel. 6 months, 180 grand, a guess. Charlotte stood frozen, her face masked, her white knuckles clutching a key to a car nobody could quickly fix. But way in the back stood a quiet mechanic, the type who actually knew how to find trouble fast. 1 3-second glance was all he needed to spot the real issue before returning to work. He kept quiet, but his sharp eyes had already solved the mystery. You and I know that real skill is about speed, not pristine fingernails. This story completely shatters everything you thought you knew about slow, expensive, exotic auto repairs. Pinnacle Autoworks looked more like a sparkling showroom than a place of actual diagnostics. Massive glass walls reflected the morning sun, creating the clean illusion of an operating room. Gleaming concrete floors mirrored the pristine shadows of elite supercars most people only admire in luxury magazines. That overpriced titanium logo outside was just expensive branding, not a sign of real expertise. Their hourly rates were higher than what a true, fast-working mechanic earns in a week. The staff wore matching black uniforms, looking crisp while doing zero actual diagnosing. They sold a slow, expensive illusion that wealthy clients bought long before handing over keys. They boasted official repair partnerships with 11 elite exotic car manufacturers. Just getting a slot for inspection meant waiting 4 long months. Nestled deep inside that wealthy zip code, an area where clients discussed luxury portfolios in quiet boardrooms instead of over a cold beer, Pinnacle was never a normal repair shop. It simply proved you had cash to burn. Meanwhile, Elijah spent 3 years analyzing cars there. He wasn't there to waste hours for a paycheck, though the money paid his bills. He craved the actual mechanical puzzle, the immediate satisfaction of finding the real problem. By Tuesday morning, he was already dissecting a Porsche 911, looking for trouble. Stripping down the brakes by instinct, making complex troubleshooting look completely effortless. That is the sharp diagnostic intuition developed over 10,000 hard repetitions. His faded gray coveralls showed no interest in corporate showmanship, only real fast results. He worked out of a battered, flaking army green toolbox. A broken hinge replaced by a quick, functional metal latch. Yet inside every single tool was organized for maximum speed and instant access. Each wrench rested in its designated slot, clean and ready for action. Drill bits were arranged by size in a custom tray designed for rapid selection. He never wasted words. If asked, he identified the exact problem instantly and moved on. Zero complaints about the workload or the slow, clueless managers. He arrived early and left only when every mechanical problem was solved. You and I recognized true diagnostic genius, but the shop never noticed his speed. On the other hand, Adrian ran the shop by selling long wait times and fake confidence. The man hadn't diagnosed a real engine in years. Possessing soft hands, tailored suits, and a rehearsed greeting designed to mask his ignorance. He hid behind paper certifications rather than showing any actual technical competence. Spending 10 whole years building up a massive referral network, all to master a script that distracted wealthy owners from his slow diagnostic process. That morning he walked past Elijah, oblivious to the real genius nearby. No one respects the guy grinding for hours beneath that heavy Porsche. You and I know those weren't real instructions, just a suit demanding speed without ever understanding the actual problem. Just how management treats a grinder, valuing mindless hours over sharp surgical diagnostic skill. Owen was busy sweating next door. He had a real laugh and steady confidence, a classic blue-collar grinder trusting brute manual labor over sharp, rapid diagnostic skills. Working with Elijah, Owen saw what made a master, finding the core issue instantly. Elijah let his diagnostic precision speak for itself. It worked. Around noon, Owen walked over carrying 2 greasy bags from the diner across the avenue. A simple corner spot open for 30 years. No useless fluff, just efficient service and a menu that never changed. Elijah refused lunch, keeping his eyes locked on the engine, scanning for the exact point of failure. Owen left a greasy bag on the edge of the battered red toolbox anyway. A quiet gesture that saved time, needing zero thanks and absolutely no useless words. Outside the shop, Elijah kept his life stripped down, avoiding any wasted energy or useless clutter. A bare second-floor apartment. 4 blocks away, overlooking a brick alley that caught harsh afternoon light through a single pane. He relied on practical knowledge, using dog-eared manuals held together by electrical tape to find answers fast. A coffee maker always running, 0 useless photos decorating his bare walls. No useless clutter, every item had a purpose. You and I know this type. He kept his space clear of distractions, keeping his mind focused on what was right in front of him. Just moving forward efficiently. Surviving each day with that quiet, intense silence of a man who processes heavy losses internally, never wasting a single word. 5 years of that routine, where the fast-paced diagnostics of the repair shop became his only true anchor. The long shift was nearly finished when a heavy flatbed rumbled into the lot. The broken McLaren 720s on top looked like pure platinum under overcast skies. A sterile gray, engineered by a computer, designed to make simple troubleshooting incredibly slow and complex for average mechanics. That complex puzzle stopped the shop cold. Voices dropped and wrenches stopped turning. A few slow textbook mechanics drifted toward the doors, mesmerized by a puzzle they couldn't solve. The magnetic pull that traps guys who rely on scanners instead of true diagnostic intuition. Adrian bolted out, eager to sell a long, expensive repair rather than a fast solution. He wore the fake practice smile of a hungry corporate salesman. Slick routines designed to drag out billable hours for wealthy clients. Charlotte climbed down from the passenger side of the big tow truck. She was cruising when the over-engineered system suddenly died, dropping all drive engagement on the highway 60 miles outside the city limits. A flood of error codes, mostly red herrings. She coasted to the shoulder and waited, knowing a serious McLaren issue usually means official techs dragging out repairs for 6 months. She was dressed sharp in a dark navy blazer. Her expensive smartphone was already gripped tight. She detailed the breakdown to Adrian, clearly trusting slow, textbook procedures over the sharp, rapid instincts of a real diagnostic mind. No gear engagement, 0 noise, an electronic fault others would spend weeks chasing. Every fault code lit up a classic trap for slow technicians who only read screens. She wasn't panicking, just reciting raw, uninterpreted data. Adrian nodded, pretending to analyze while silently plotting a slow, highly profitable repair process. Every breakdown was just a chance to sell slow, overcomplicated diagnostic procedures. Watch this. The expensive diagnostic cart rolled up, a slow technician's ultimate crutch. Let us look at these 2 master techs, Adrian's perfect show ponies. The guys he parades for high-paying clients plugged in the diagnostic tool and started a slow scan. That overpriced equipment slowly cycled, pulling error codes from every single system module on board. They hovered over the monitor, faking the body language of deep, highly paid professional concern. Slow head shakes, mumbled whispers. Just the classic routine of men trying to look like they are solving rocket science. 12 long minutes wasted. Sure, the scanner output was technically accurate. On paper at least. A massive wall of red flags flooding the engine and transmission control modules. It looked terrifying to anyone relying purely on basic software instead of sharp, intuitive diagnostic skills. Adrian delivered his grim, costly verdict out in the lobby. He stood right beside his printed estimate, pretending he and the client were resolving this together. A cheap sales strategy designed to make that staggering price tag look like teamwork. He claimed the McLaren's computer unit suffered a total, catastrophic firmware crash. He smoothly added, further compounded by a complete mechanical failure deep inside the dual-clutch gearbox actuator assembly. High-end parts like these simply could not be sourced anywhere nearby. They had to ship straight from the manufacturer's exclusive warehouse in Woking, England. Waiting for exotic supercar parts of this level meant 12 to 14 weeks. Add assembly, complex calibrations, and testing, and you are looking at 6 months minimum. The parts, labor, storage, and specialized fees totaled $180,000. Charlotte did not even flinch. Her face stayed completely stone. She studied the estimate, tracking the long, itemized columns all the way to the signature line. Then she locked eyes with Adrian, asking the only question that actually mattered. Is there any way to speed this up? Adrian shook his head with rehearsed regret. This is the official certified process, he insisted, approved directly by the factory. It was the only way to preserve the car's engineering integrity and keep the warranty valid. Deviating meant taking on severe risks that he simply could not in good conscience let his elite shop accept. He delivered that corporate script flawlessly because it was designed to trap worried clients every single time. Charlotte finally grabbed the paper. She checked it over twice. Once for the painful numbers, once searching for any loophole she might have missed. Then she signed, not because she was happy. She was absolutely not satisfied. She signed because this dealership held a total monopoly on regional supercar repairs. And without their official stamp, any independent mechanic would instantly void her remaining factory warranty. Let us look closer. That signature was a pure hostage negotiation, and they both quietly knew it. Meanwhile, across the workshop floor, Elijah stood up from a Porsche. He stood quietly at his bench, wiping grease off a tool, eyes darting toward them. He took just one sharp glance at the diagnostic screen glowing beside that McLaren. He did not walk over, change his steady expression, or break his fast-working rhythm. But in the single second it took to read those codes from 40 feet away, his sharp diagnostic instinct had already completed the diagnosis that you and I know those slow-moving corporate techs completely missed regarding the simple firmware conflict triggered by a bad overwrite during a routine remote update. The certified experts were wrong. No actual hardware had failed. We are about to uncover the real truth, just a basic powertrain software glitch easily solved with a quick calibration. Look closely at the actuator reading. A positional error clearly pointing to dirty hydraulic fluid. Tiny shavings from a missed oil change were just jamming the pressure regulation valve. No costly parts or 6-month delay. Elijah diagnosed it instantly right as Adrian walked over. The pompous shop owner marched over, wearing a fake smile that didn't reach his eyes. The greedy look of a man who just secured a highly lucrative repair contract and wanted no technical complications whatsoever. Elijah. His voice was casual, but loud enough for the entire shop to hear him assert his dominance. Admiring the supercar? That machine is out of your league. Focus on finishing that basic Porsche repair. He held the gaze just long enough to assert his fragile authority. Then he turned back toward the polished reception desk. Elijah only nodded. He silently went back to his own cluttered workbench. Charlotte witnessed the entire power trip on her way out. The pure efficiency of it. How Elijah easily shrugged off that public insult and went right back to work. No bruised ego, just absolute laser-focused concentration. He wasn't bowing to the boss, nor was he drowning in silent anger. It was a completely different attitude, something she couldn't quite define yet. The unshakable calm of a master technician who found empty posturing completely pointless. She stood there, letting his quiet focus sink in. A moment too long, until Diana nudged her arm, pointing out their 4 o'clock meeting and leading her out of the garage. Right at the exit, she paused. She looked back at Adrian, heading to his fancy office, and raised a question. Are you absolutely certain no one here can repair this faster? Adrian flashed his smooth, practiced smile. Miss Charlotte, this is a high-performance McLaren. The complex procedures involved are why we are the only certified shop in the region. Following the manual step-by-step takes a full 6 months. She weighed the expert's slow, lazy excuse and walked away. By 6:30, the garage was empty. The doors were locked. The lights dimmed as the certified staff left for the night, having zero interest in finding the real problem, only watching the clock. Owen was the last one. Jacket in hand, he paused at the door, watching Elijah walk between the repaired Porsche and the old parts racks tucked deep in the back. You heading home? Owen asked. Elijah replied, just finishing a few things up. Owen knew that Porsche was already finished. He had watched Elijah ace the final diagnostic scan 2 hours ago. He thought about pressing him, but wisely let it go. 3 years of working side by side taught him when a question would get an answer, and when Elijah would offer total silence. All right, he muttered, pulling the heavy entrance door shut. The true master waited patiently until the very last headlights left the lot. Then he finally approached the broken McLaren, standing there quietly without even touching the pristine paint. He stood completely motionless under a single beam of sharp overhead light, the only working bulb left in the dark garage, and stared directly at the diagnostic screen, still connected to the OBD port. The messy error log remained exactly as the certified experts left it, their testing screens wide open. He read that complex diagnostic data as easily as you and I would read a favorite book. Textbook diagnostics won't cut it. It takes the raw expertise you and I respect, knowing the machinery well enough to see past what computer screens claim. A buried third-layer computer glitch. He instantly recognized this software mess from 6 different real-world jobs during his last 2 years at Vortec. He had studied the raw factory memos when that bug surfaced. He even tracked the corporate emails when the decision was made to force a rushed software patch on affected cars. That sloppy update triggered a completely new engine management crash. Only cars with a specific factory date and a particular dealer software setup would crash like this. Charlotte's McLaren checked every single box. The transmission fault was purely mechanical, just requiring experienced hands and patience. That dirty hydraulic fluid proved the dual clutch was overdue for routine maintenance. Tiny metal flakes floating from normal clutch wear. Clear signs of fluid breakdown. The pressure regulation valve was definitely choking on fine grit. The computers flagged a complete failure, but a sticky valve just blocked the sensor. The part was perfect. A thorough hydraulic fluid flush and parts scrub. A manual calibration would get this gearbox shifting like it just left the factory. He could easily resolve both issues. The software flash and the transmission fix, just one focused night with his own tools. He just stood in front of the machine, completely still for a moment. For 5 years he had survived by keeping his head down. It wasn't because he stopped caring about the work, he just needed to survive. After those brutal years, he simply needed to keep his world quiet. His wife fought an illness for 18 months before passing away. That sickness slowly dismantled the entire life they had built together, brick by brick. Once the dust finally settled, he looked at the wreckage, knowing whatever came next had to be different. Quieter, simpler, with absolutely nothing left to snag on. He left corporate Vortec on a Tuesday, choosing to fix things with his bare hands, asking nothing from anyone, and expecting zero in return. Pinnacle Auto was the 3rd repair shop he had wrenched at since leaving. He never planned on staying there forever either. But analyzing this broken supercar tonight changed things. Let's face it together. He knew exactly what those dealers told Charlotte, and the massive bill they were writing up. Staying quiet stopped being a shield, it became a choice. He wasn't guarding his peace anymore. He was standing by while a repair shop ripped someone off. He never had the stomach to let a scam like that slide. Even during the dark years when peace was his only currency. So he picked up his phone. He found Charlotte's number on the garage intake form. As senior mechanic, he had full access to the database. He stared at those numbers for nearly a full minute. Then he dialed her. She picked up right away. Her tone was guarded. You and I know why. An unknown call at 9 p.m. right after leaving your supercar feels wrong. Elijah kept it brief and professional, just his name and his position at Pinnacle Auto. And the fact he had inspected her car today. I can fix this car. It will be ready in 24 hours, he said. You and I know that quiet pause was not confusion. It was the intense focus of an expert recognizing a truly brilliant solution. Just calculating the risk. Are you absolutely sure about that? She asked. I know this exact glitch, he said. No new parts needed. It does not take 6 months. It just takes knowing exactly where to look. A short silence. If you are wrong, I will find out. Yes, you will, he agreed. She approved it instantly, bypassing useless paperwork. No checking resumes. He realized she was actually making a very calculated bet. She had spent years learning to identify real, lightning-fast diagnostic skill over empty promises. Between amateurs begging for trust and a true master who knows the answer. She recognized that instantly, tossed his phone aside and scanned the supercar, analyzing it in seconds. He stepped outside and opened the trunk of his battered old car. The massive case he grabbed did not belong to some basic grease monkey. A pro-level tuner designed to crack factory software on 17 distinct engine families. A precision diagnostic scope tangled up in a web of custom test leads. A custom hydraulic kit. Along with a calibration rig for dual-clutch gearboxes. Think about it, these are elite engineering tools, not basic dealership shop gear. High-grade hex wrenches sitting neatly in a custom metal tray. Each handle polished perfectly smooth from 10,000 hours of hands-on diagnostics. Right on top lay a blue notebook, bound with rubber, full of handwritten tuning formulas. 10 years of custom codes and diagnostic secrets recorded by hand. He hauled this toolkit to every job after leaving his engineering gig at Vortex. He had never opened this case in front of anyone here before. Never. He laid out his gear with deliberate patience. No rushing, complete control. Amateurs panic and guess. Real pros diagnose the core issue in a heartbeat. He connected the interface to the supercar and ran a complete system scan, reading data deep past the superficial codes that stop ordinary shop mechanics. The telemetry confirmed exactly what his intuition had spotted on the dashboard, now proven by solid engineering data. A hidden firmware clash in the powertrain system, blocking the ignition sequence. The corrupt script was uploaded during a broken over-the-air update pushed to this specific model. The baseline factory configuration was still safe in a protected block, saving him from a full rebuild. He only had to inject a specific patch into the engine controller to reset all system error flags sequentially. He opened his dirty handbook to one highly specific page, a digital patch he engineered years ago while collaborating with the Vortex development engineers and the brand's main factory rep in 2019, back when they first analyzed this software glitch on the assembly line. He reviewed every line carefully, not due to a bad memory, but real experts know that experience means never trusting your memory completely. Then he began. Right at 11, the garage door opened and Owen walked in holding his helmet. Owen left his helmet resting right by the parts window. He only realized his mistake halfway down the dark street. Let's look at this together. From the doorway, Elijah stood over that broken McLaren. A laptop was hooked up with an oily notebook open nearby. The lamp was angled exactly right. That is the instinct of a true expert who finds the hidden issues faster than anyone else. Owen had shared a workshop with him for 3 years. He had watched him rebuild brakes and track down electrical gremlins, tearing down a Lamborghini differential in 4 hours entirely from memory. Owen thought he knew exactly what this quiet mechanic could do. He was dead wrong. When Elijah finally spoke, he sounded cautious. "What are you doing? Just giving a guy his car back." Owen stepped closer, staring hard at the strange gear scattered around. Let's face it, this wasn't some slow dealership diagnostic process. This custom code looked completely alien. Raw system codes written in a complex technical language of its own. He glanced at the notebook, packed with tight, handwritten scribbles. Page after page of practical knowledge gathered over decades of dirty hands. "Where did you learn this?" "A long time ago," Elijah whispered, never losing focus. "Go home, Owen." The younger technician just stood there staring. He saw the screen, the notebook, and a true master finding the issue instantly. Quietly, he walked over and flipped on the old secondary bay light. The wall bulb cast just enough extra light onto the exotic sports car. Nobody used it because the manager complained about the electricity bill. It was nothing. But it showed respect. Owen grabbed his helmet and left in absolute silence. He closed the door softly. Elijah kept working straight through the dark. By 2 in the morning, he manually loaded the impossible firmware fix. He hard-coded the engine timing directly into the primary computer brain. Every single error code vanished instantly and completely. His final system checks flashed green across the entire control screen. Unplugging his laptop, he let the vehicle's onboard computer run a self-test. The supercar accepted this rapid, precise fix without a single complaint. Software sorted, he moved straight to the transmission gearbox. He drained the dual-clutch fluid into a pan, studying its texture under the yellow light. Dark and gritty, it looked like motor oil neglected for far too long. He cleaned the valve body with solvent, proving that speed comes from deep experience. He had tackled this messy job more times than any textbook technician could count. Wiping down every small pressure valve, searching for tiny scratches but finding absolutely nothing. The clutch actuator felt completely solid. His bare fingers confirmed that the rubber seals were still holding strong. He flushed in fresh hydraulic fluid and bolted the heavy valve body back together, tightening every single bolt to the precise specs written in his notebook. Then he manually started the recalibration sequence to reset the transmission unit, forcing the gears to quickly relearn their physical limits through the full travel range. "So you and I have reached 4 in the morning, time to fire it up." The McLaren fired up instantly, running incredibly rich at first. A roaring V8 scream shook the empty shop, proving fast diagnostics beat 6 months of dealer delays. But the transmission computer still needed time to finish its automatic relearn cycle. Elijah read the complex offsets through pure diagnostic instinct. He adjusted the software, pinpointing the issue strictly by feel. "Stay with me here." He let the system run another cycle, waiting on that cheap plastic chair. He watched the signals dance, instantly decoding the supercar's mechanical heartbeat in real time. Morning light crept through the high garage windows, painting the entire shop a dull gray. It caught the floating dust for a second, right before the bright white of a new day flooded through the glass. Elijah had not slept at all. He had not eaten since Owen left that paper bag on his toolbox yesterday afternoon. He brewed some terrible break room coffee, drinking it under the faint orange glow of the heating coil, letting his exhausted mind go completely blank. Standing how a real mechanic does when exhaustion hits, the fix is done and there is nothing left to do but let that final test run. Now get this, by 2 in the afternoon his rapid, expert recalibrations finished flawlessly. He fired the engine and let it idle for 25 minutes, monitoring the coolant temp, oil pressure, transmission heat, and real-time feedback from every moving part. His fast diagnostic fix held, every single number stayed rock solid. He clicked through gears on the jack stands, feeling the heavy shift sequence, using his hands to verify those gear ranges. He plugged in the advanced diagnostic scanner once more. Perfect codes everywhere. The expensive supercar was not just faking a repair today. The true issue was solved. Elijah finally killed the engine. He unhooked his gear, wrapped up the cables, returned his tools to their exact slots, and snapped the chest shut. Then he collapsed into that cracked plastic chair, the one those slow dealer experts totally avoided, and choked down his cold coffee, tasting nothing but the bitter, burnt sludge from the bottom of the pot. He just stared at the McLaren. Just 19 hours to solve a 6-month nightmare, he texted Charlotte. "The car is ready, come grab it whenever you want." Her reply buzzed back in 4 minutes flat. She would be there within the hour. She pulled up to the auto shop in 53 minutes, with Diana riding shotgun. They walked right into the garage with that calm, effortless confidence you only see from people who show up for one specific job and fully plan on getting it done. Elijah stood by his bench, toolbox locked, with his greasy coveralls neatly folded over the side. He looked exactly the same as always, like a master who diagnosed a major puzzle in record time, ready to show his work. Charlotte circled the luxury vehicle once, saying absolutely nothing. Then she popped the driver door, slid into the center seat, and fired the ignition. The roar hit instantly, a pure and clean blast. A screaming high note from the exhaust echoed, then dropped into a smooth, steady purr. You and I both know that sound. Not a broken toy, but the raw growl of a machine remembering its purpose. She let it rev for 15 seconds, then killed the engine. She stepped out and looked him dead in the eye, asking simply, "How long?" 19 hours, he replied. Just then the shop door swung open and Adrian casually walked in. She sauntered through the repair bay, with the cocky swagger of a boss owning the place, already mapping out his daily shop schedule in his mind. The suit rounded that pristine wall and stopped cold in his tracks. Charlotte stood by the McLaren they claimed needed 6 months of bloated rebuilding. Diana hovered behind, clutching her tablet. Elijah just leaned there, toolbox closed, not sweating this slow-motion corporate drama at all. The manager rushed over, keeping his voice low, but pure panic bled right through his expensive act. A nervous edge completely ruined his professional facade. None of his corporate training could hide the absolute panic setting in right now. He snapped at Elijah, hiding behind rigid corporate rules to mask his own slow-minded incompetence. Touching a customer car without corporate permission, bypassing the sacred mountain of dealership paperwork, endangering the fragile legal safety nets that kept their fancy certifications active, exposing the dealership to massive legal risks that this suit could never easily sweep away. Technically, every single rule he cited was real, but it was just a smokescreen hiding his terror that Elijah's rapid fix exposed their 6-month scam. Charlotte calmly let him finish his rant. Then she demanded an immediate independent inspection, trapping the slow-thinking suit completely. Saying no to her face would destroy their reputation far faster than any inspection could. He knew he was cornered, so he made the call. An outside expert from an independent automotive firm arrived within 2 hours. You and I respect this type. He treated that machine with care, hunting for the real problem fast instead of blindly ticking digital checkboxes. He spent 45 minutes using his own trusted gear, running a complete diagnostic sweep. Checked the firmware logs, sampled fluids, and tested actuator ranges. Took a close look at the valve body and hydraulic system. When he finished, he compiled his findings into a report and handed it straight to Charlotte. The vehicle was running beautifully, with every mechanical parameter matching strict factory specifications. That supposed firmware disaster was fully documented and completely resolved. The complex transmission system was restored. Serviced to a precise standard the inspector called way above average for its mileage. The fluid quality easily beat what you would get from a slow, overpriced dealer service. Absolutely no signs of amateur hacking. Tons of evidence proved elite diagnostic skill. Adrian pivoted fast. The objective mechanical facts cleanly crushed his entire argument. Leaving zero room for doubt in that honest, independent report, he retreated to his final desperate defense: bureaucratic process. He whined that Elijah worked after hours, violating contracts just to solve the problem instantly. That was true, but right there on the floor, it sounded like a defeated man's final cry. Charlotte turned slowly to face him, keeping her voice completely calm. She had not moved an inch more than she absolutely had to. She spoke with the icy precision of someone who values results over slow procedures. You looked me in the eye and quoted a 6-month repair timeline costing $180,000 for simple software glitches and dirty fluid. She let that contrast sit heavily in the air. I want to know what part of that estimate covered real diagnosis and what part covered pure bureaucratic delay. The manager just stood there, mouth open. That heavy silence told us everything we needed to know about their slow, bloated racket. Diana slammed her tablet onto the counter, exposing the master fix instantly. She bypassed the fluff, dissecting his true diagnostic history overnight. Right after Charlotte flagged that late-night phone call from the shop, she spent all night tracing his engineering records. What she uncovered was perfect diagnostic data, organized for maximum efficiency. 3 major filings registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, all naming Elijah as lead inventor, including one approved in 2019. It mapped the firmware architecture for 3rd-generation powertrain control systems, specifically handling drive engagement codes buried deep inside the machine. For high-performance dual-clutch transmission setups. His 2021 patent mapped out calibration recovery protocols for instantly recovering the clutch when hydraulic pressure drops completely. Even the manufacturer paid to license his fast-acting solutions. Both were baked right into that complex McLaren supercar platform. That quiet mechanic standing in the corner of the shop yesterday. The same guy the slow certified expert mocked for looking closer. He literally wrote the diagnostic playbook for that luxury drivetrain. Let's look closer. Diana uncovered his 11-year record at Vortec Dynamics. He spent 6 years leading their elite powertrain systems division. His crew solved real-world breakdowns on over 200 active cases, fast-tracking complex diagnostics across multiple luxury vehicle platforms. Back in 2018 and 19, his team led the analysis that pinpointed this exact firmware bug. The exact issue crippling Charlotte's car, and they built the fix. The exact diagnostic solution the manufacturer eventually sent to everyone. He didn't need slow scanners. He designed the cure before this car ever existed. The shop went dead quiet outside. A lone car rumbled. An oscilloscope on Elijah's worn workbench quietly ticked on standby. Owen stood frozen near the side garage door. He had walked in halfway, quietly listening from the edge. He looked like a guy realizing the humble mechanic was actually the master architect. Adrian finally spoke, sweating under the weight of his own failure. His slow, arrogant expert routine survived the first vehicle inspection. Through the initial story, and even the paperwork. But bureaucratic bluffing under pressure cannot match genuine diagnostic grit. It is rigid, propped up by panic instead of quiet expertise. And eventually that slow, weak foundation collapses under its own weight. He turned to Charlotte, desperately searching for a final excuse. Forget actual troubleshooting speed, ignore the brilliant engineering credentials. To him, the only issue was performing unapproved work on a client's car without shiny, up-to-date certificates. Without bloated liability insurance, ignoring the slow authority of their certified shop. Technically true on paper, sure. But you and I know it was just his last pathetic defense. Elijah calmly set down the handle of his heavy diagnostic case. He finally spoke, using the steady, precise voice of a true master. I kept it quiet and fast, no pointless drama. I locked eyes with Charlotte, the owner, then mapped out the entire issue for her with pinpoint accuracy. I pinpointed the third-layer firmware clash, explaining exactly how and where it originated. I proved how their expensive scanners misread a simple software bug as massive hardware failure. The real physical culprits, a glitched actuator and contaminated hydraulic fluid. Why a quick, targeted clean and tune solved it instantly without ordering any parts. No expensive new components were required. You and I know it's not magic, just fast, sharp diagnostics. I knew these systems inside out years before this vehicle hit the road. Every point I made was backed by physical proof sitting right in front of us. My diagnostic tablet logged the exact timeline of the entire fix. The onboard computer had already stored the complete diagnostic history. The dirty, contaminated hydraulic fluid was still pooling in my drain pan. Every claim I made could be verified immediately on the spot. Adrian scrambled to save face with one last desperate defense. He argued that a professional shop couldn't survive if technicians ignored corporate guidelines to rely on speed and intuition, no matter their actual hands-on expertise. An official luxury brand garage simply could not be run that way. He sounded like a bureaucrat desperately pleading to save his precious corporate rulebook. He was entirely out of excuses, and Charlotte just met his rambling with ice-cold silence. She turned to me, not as an undecided client weighing her potential options, but with the sharp, calculating look of a leader recognizing immediate, indisputable results. Then she turned sharply back to Adrian. "He solved my problem in 19 hours, she snapped. "That is my answer." She demanded the independent inspector's signed paperwork, proving the car was fully cleared. The inspector handed it over immediately. She told Adrian she was canceling her massive fleet maintenance contract right then, striking his high-end dealership entirely off her corporate fleet's list of approved vendors. And she demanded a full, immediate refund on her expensive intake deposit. She delivered the final blow with the same cool composure she had all morning. Pure facts, completely grounded, Adrian just stood there in silence, unable to muster a single response. The rulebook salesman was finally speechless. Charlotte walked straight out the door. Diana followed close behind, snatching the clearance papers off the counter without missing a beat. The massive bay doors swung open, letting in the morning light before clicking shut behind them. You and I know that sweet purr of a flawless engine. That's what echoed outside. The McLaren roared out of the lot, its perfect engine hum fading into the city. I grabbed my toolbox. I looked across the quiet garage at Owen, who was standing frozen near the side door. He stared back, but his expression wasn't what I actually expected from him. It wasn't disbelief, and he didn't look like a beaten tech who'd been lied to. He looked like someone realizing his beloved corporate handbook was utterly useless in the real world, realizing that genuine high-speed troubleshooting was something his textbook simply could not teach him. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" he finally asked. His question held no anger. I paused, choosing my words carefully. "It didn't matter until it did," Owen slowly nodded. "Today, you and I are looking at the exact moment a master diagnostician makes it click. No bloated scanner could match this pure diagnostic instinct. Silence was enough." Owen headed out, leaving the empty lot behind. The shop went quiet. It is that rare stillness after diagnosing a hopeless disaster in minutes, leaving you alone with your thoughts. Elijah walked out into the sharp morning air. The wind bit hard under a clear, endless blue sky. Charlotte waited out in the open, not hiding in her luxury car. She leaned back, one hand gripping the doorframe while her other arm stayed loose. Her phone was gone, a first since he saw her climb down from that massive flatbed tow truck. She looked like a decisive manager who had already run the numbers, just waiting to deploy the solution. She did not rush to speak when he emerged. She let the master technician catch his breath before asking, "Why are you here?" Elijah knew exactly what she meant. She wanted to know why a diagnostic genius was hiding here, ever since his brilliant patents flashed on her screen. Why was the creator whose name sat right on the blueprints of this complex supercar drivetrain spinning wrenches in a dusty, run-down local shop? He set his tools down. "I wanted a job where I could actually solve things," he said. "Real diagnostic work where the engine actually runs before you go home. I was sick of slow corporate bureaucracy. I needed to just fix cars again." She listened quietly, offering zero useless commentary. No useless corporate talk, the lazy buzzwords weak managers use to waste time. She knew what high-stakes burnout felt like. She understood the cost of running on empty. Experience had taught her never to judge how an expert recovers from that pressure. "My business is expanding," she said. "We manage high-performance sports cars now. I need a master troubleshooter. Someone who spots mechanical issues instantly and cuts through vendor lies. This is not some slow clock-punching corporate desk job. I call when there is an impossible problem, and I need the fastest mind available." Elijah looked at her. The offer was direct, fast, and completely free of corporate games. She possessed the sharp, cut-to-the-chase attitude he had respected all day. He respected her the second she signed that intake form without wasting a single breath. Not relying on slow expert opinions. She just wanted the machine fixed, bypassing the usual corporate delays. "Stick with me here. Few managers actually want a rapid, honest diagnosis over comforting corporate lies." He paused to think. She did not push him. Right then, Owen walked out and saw the two of them. Owen read the situation and stepped closer. Elijah offered a grease-stained hand. Owen shook it, a firm grip that lasted a beat longer to show true respect. Years of hard work together, now bound by a deep respect for master-level talent. Top-tier mechanics do not waste words on this. Owen simply nodded and left. The yard went quiet. Elijah turned to Charlotte. That McLaren did not need 6 months. It just needed a diagnostician who actually knows how to listen. Charlotte went still. That perfect silence when an owner finally gets the fast, honest answer they needed. Over 15 years of running a tight operation. We both know the truth. The best mind finds the problem instantly, while amateurs just bill hours. She'd met plenty of certified dealership techs, but never a real troubleshooter like me. Someone who pinpoints the actual problem fast without needing a shiny dealership badge. You and I know I'd have stayed away if their ridiculous 6-month repair estimate didn't feel like an absolute joke. "Is that a yes?" she asked me. I barely let my face show any reaction. No smile. Just the look you give when you already know the cure, making the dealership's 6-month diagnostic look like useless corporate red tape. "I'll think about it," I told her. I grabbed my heavy tool case and headed for my truck. I stowed it in the back with the same steady, practiced hands I've used to solve complex supercar electrical nightmares for years. I eased out of the dealership lot, no rush. Charlotte just stood there, watching my taillights fade and blend right into the slow, heavy afternoon city gridlock. I imagined she stood there staring at her dead supercar in the quiet bay. Before climbing into a dull dealer loaner, heading back downtown while the morning traffic just kept crawling along as usual. Nobody cared about our brief talk or the complex gears we'd just set in motion. Took me 2 whole weeks, but I finally sent her a quick text. I told her I'd take the job. She probably read it looking out from her 14th floor glass office, looking down at the hard streets where real work happens. Then she pocketed her phone. No useless dealer diagnostics or board meetings to overthink it. True troubleshooting doesn't need corporate commentary. You and I know it just takes real-world mechanical knowledge and someone who trusts their gut.